Chapter 2. When Arthur got back to the classroom, his friends rushed to his side. "You survived," said Buster, "with no obvious signs of torture," Pinky added. He looked a little disappointed. "What happened?" asked Francine. Arthur let out a sigh. "Mr. Hanny gave me this." He held up a large brown envelope. "He said it was for my mom." "That's it?" asked Muffy. She reached out for a closer look. "What does it say? Is it sealed?" Francine grabbed the envelope. "It's sealed all right." She held it up to the light. "And too thick to read through." "Give it a shake," said Buster, cocking his ears. Francine shook the envelope for a moment. It rustled softly. "That doesn't tell us much," she said. Pinky folded his arms. "Let's just open it." "I can't," said Arthur. "It's addressed to my mother. And look what's stamped on it. Private and confidential." "That's a bad sign," said Buster. "Good news is never private." "Besides," said Pinky, "you can't start making excuses until you know what kind of trouble you're in." "Didn't Mr. Hanny give you any clues at all?" Francine asked. "He said it was important," said Arthur, taking back the envelope. "That was about it." "If it was good news," said Muffy, "Mr. Hanny would have told you. My mother always tells me right away if we've gotten a new limousine or if the cook is making a special dessert for dinner." "He didn't say anything like that," Arthur admitted. "That means it's bad news," said Francine. "The question is, how bad is it?" This was not a question Arthur wanted to think about. Pinky laughed. "Woo-hoo! I'll bet you lost a library book." "I don't think Mr. Hanny gets involved with overdue library books," said Arthur. "Besides, I just returned all mine." "Oh, no," said Francine. "What?" said Muffy. "Tell us," said Buster. "Tell me," said Arthur. "Never mind," said Francine. "It's too terrible to think about." Arthur turned pale. "That's why you have to tell me." "All right," said Francine. "But you forced me into it." She shuddered. "What if you didn't pass Mr. Ratburn's history test?" Arthur frowned. The big test had been the week before. It had been a hard one. "Remember, Arthur? You told me afterward that you wrote how the Pilgrims came to America in 1620. "Francine, the Pilgrims did come to America in 1620. She looked surprised. "Really?" Everyone else nodded. "Well, still," Francine tapped the envelope. "The proof is right here. And if you failed that test, you might fail the whole year. You know what that means. Summer school." Arthur sat down in his chair and thought about his fate. Summer school. Perhaps the two most dreaded words in the English language. He saw himself chained to the wall of a dark dungeon. Outside the barred window, he could hear his friends playing. He looked out through the bars. Buster and the Brain were setting up a tent for camping. Muffy and Prunella were rollerblading. Arthur looked around his cell. He was alone, with only some thick, dusty books for company. Then the guard, Mr. Ratburn, walked in. He was slurping ice cream from a cone. A few drops fell on the stones, just beyond Arthur's reach. "Snap out of it, Arthur," said Buster. Arthur looked at his friends blankly. "You know what they say," Buster went on. "Those who don't learn their history are doomed to repeat it." Arthur sighed. History or not, he felt doomed for sure.